Hello, everybody. Oh my goodness. Here I go again. Ah, the water's cold. Here I go again. Sorry, I'm not ready. The thing is, if I don't press go live, I never go live. You know what I mean? I'm never ready. I'm never ready. And I've been ready, but then things happen all the time to distract me. Literally. When I was about to go live earlier, my brother wanted to watch something with me, and my brother never wants to hang out with me. So I wanted to take advantage of that. Then when I was gonna go live again, I had to plan something with my friend, but they were not trying to plan it. So then I got sad. And I'm still sad. And I hate that I'm sad. But I'm not supposed to judge how I feel. So, whatever, right? So that's why I'm here. Because it doesn't matter how I feel. I still have to do what I have to do, which is a lot of stuff all the time. And I don't know how to stop or how to organize myself. And I feel very fucking lonely. Oh, and I quit weed. I don't even remember the last time I smoked. It should feel easier after 3 weeks, right? One can only hope. And this shirt is overstimulating me. But it's cute. And I wanted to wear it for the life. So I wore it all day. I wanted to take it off. Because I'm like, no, if I take it off, I'm not gonna go live. And I wrote a poem. And apparently I got this eyebrow thing that apparently my mom said is too dark for my face. I thought it would match my hair. So now I don't feel the best with it. Even though at the beginning I did. And I know mom's mean well, but it's so annoying. It truly is. And honestly, this is my YouTube. So I can say whatever I feel. Unfiltered. I miss going live on TikTok. Because over there, like, you know, I can talk to people. Over here, I still haven't built up a community yet, as they say. So, working on that right now. And I want to bring something useful to you guys' lives. That's why I read things that I'm reading myself. And sometimes I just want to read the book without going live because I don't want to read it out loud. But I can't do it because I have to read with you guys. Let's see if I remember where I left off. I know I was in green. I know where I left off because I actually left a bookmark this time. Great. The eats of the present thanks the eats of the past. Don't know what my hair is doing this separation thing. Quite annoying. Alright. We was reading the green color, so we're picking up where we left off. This is part 3. If you wanna know the rest of the other things, go to part 1 and part 2. The next subtitle. Once they've said they'll do something, you can rest assured that it will be done. If a green says that he will do something, you can be confident that he'll do it. If it's in his power to deliver, he will. It won't be done in the shortest amount of time possible, but it will show up in your inbox roughly within the expected time frame. Greens don't want to be caught failing to deliver, as this might cause trouble for others, and because they're good team players, they don't want to do anything that can cause problems for the team. Team comes before self, the team being the company, crew, football team, or family. For the green, it's natural to look after everyone else around them. The reason why everyone works so well with greens is a topic for debate. In some situations, it's simply because they don't like conflict. Mostly, however, it's because they're controlled by the desire to make those around them happy and satisfied. If they can please you with a job well done, they'll do it. The desire to please others verges on being a driving force for greens. It comes naturally and requires no effort. And this selflessness is accompanied by an exalted serenity that lowers the stress levels of those around them. I just want to be comfortable. The next subtext. We don't want any unpleasant surprises. It's good to know what's going to happen. Every time. You can always count on a green person. In some organizations, it's a requirement to have reliable employees. Creativity and ingenuity are not at the top of the wish list. In short, you simply need people who understand the job and get it done without a lot of fuss or drama. Then you hire greens. They constitute the stable core who will do the job well. They don't have problems taking orders, as long as the orders are formulated in an appealing fashion. Greens enjoy stability and a certain predictability in the workplace, or in the home, or with the family, just about everywhere. Whenever trouble is brewing, maybe due to a recession or when new managers take over, we'll see all kinds of interesting behavior in a group. Reds, who never listen to the whole message, just rush off to do what they believe needs to be done. Unless, of course, they're busy yelling at the management because they don't agree with their decisions. Yellows start wild discussions and inform absolutely everyone about their take on what happened. Instead of working, they'll debate the news until it's time to leave the office. Blues will sit at their desk and begin the bureaucratic paperwork, formulating 500,000 questions that no one knows the answers to yet. Greens, they'll just murmur. If the manager has avoided seriously sabotaging their sense of security, they'll trundle on without complaining. There's no point in making a lot of fuss and bother about it. Might as well keep doing what you were before. This, in fact, makes things much easier. We'll get to how we help greens We'll get to how we help greens to change direction, but they're great at keeping calm and carrying on. You always know how a green will respond to some questions because he doesn't change his opinion very often. A few years ago, I coached Gregor. He had been a CEO for several years, and his management team consisted solely of green middleman managers. He used to enjoy playing a little game when launching new ideas. He wrote little notes with the answers he thought he would get from each person. No, from Anna. Yes, from Stefan. Maybe from Berto. Right every time. Gregor knew them very well and knew how they would react to his proposals. This wouldn't have been the case with the Yellows. They don't even know how they're going to respond when opportunities arise. Exciting, sure, but it's exhausting for those around them. With Green Associates, however, you don't need to worry. Who? Me? I'm not important. Forget that you even saw me. That's the next subtitle. For every green, the group will always come first. Team before self. Remember that. This is a fundamental truth for a green, and it shouldn't be challenged too strongly. The working group, the team, the club, and the family, all these are different groups are important for a green. All these different groups are important for a green. He often disregards his own needs if the group gets what it needs. You may think that groups consist of people, and if each individual is satisfied, the group as a whole will be content. This might happen, but then the focus would be individual rather than collective. The way Green sees it, if the group feels good, every individual also feels good. Here the Green's thoughtfulness becomes apparent. He has infinite regard for those around him. This is partly the reason why it's difficult to get a straight answer from a Green. He's always trying to satisfy everyone else. Let me tell you a rather striking story. One Sunday, a few years ago, a colleague whom I didn't know that well called me. I had only been working with Christopher for a few months, but I hadn't really figured out the guy yet. So when he called me on one Sunday morning, I was surprised. I saw who he was, but I had no idea what he wanted from me. He greeted me pleasantly and asked what I was doing. I had just bought a new house at that time and was busy renovating. Christopher asked what was on the agenda this particular Sunday, and I remember that I said I was worried about the boiler. It was early winter, the temperature was just below freezing, and one of the circulation pumps didn't really work as it should. Because colder weather was definitely on the way, I wondered if the pump could cope with a major cold snap. Being a green, Christopher asked a number of questions and gave me lots of good advice. He'd once had a similar boiler, and besides he knew a plumber, whom he might be able to ask to come by and have a look, if I was interested, of course. Christopher and I chatted for a while, and I became increasingly puzzled about why he had actually called me. He asked me where I lived, I gave him the address, and he promised to write that down and give it to his plumber friend. Then, as a kind of by the way, he asked if I had any plans to go into town that day. I lived about 25 miles from the office and hadn't intended to go to work that Sunday. I explained this to Christopher. We chatted a little while longer, and in the end, I finally asked him straight out what he really wanted. Then he revealed that he was standing outside the office in his t-shirt because he had accidentally locked himself out when he had popped out to fetch some lunch. I looked at the thermometer, 30 degrees with light snow. We'd been talking for about 15 minutes. I got into the car and saved him from freezing to the bone. Everyone else is more important. A green never asks for anything. Oh my god, that is so sad. Once again, guys, I would like to get comfortable because I am just partially green, not fully. I needed to take that shirt off. Wow, much better. Whew. Next subtitle. I know exactly what you mean. They say greens are introverts. That is, that they're active in their inner world. This means that they don't talk just for the sake of talking. When you are quieter than those around you, it's natural that you listen, and greens will listen. They are interested in you and your ideas, unlike reds who only listen when there is something to be gained from it. Oh my god. Or yellows who usually don't listen at all, although they will normally deny this fact. Oh my god. Greens hear what you're actually saying. They have a genuine ear for human problems. They might not offer any suggestions or solutions, but they understand that what you've told them. Don't assume that means that they agree with you, but they are good listeners. Interesting. So reds are just not gonna listen unless they gain something from it. Interesting. It's kind of fucked up though. But no judgment because all the patterns are needed for certain things in this world. So I guess I just gotta hang out with more greens and yellows and yeah. Because I'm red, yellow, blue, and partially green. So far, you have probably tried to puzzle all the pieces together. Where do the different colors fit in? What kind of job will be best for each of them? These are good questions, even if there are no simple answers. One observation that often arises when I work with these issues in different organizations is that reds and yellows, in particular, must be good at retail and selling. This is true for sure, but greens are often overlooked. We always teach salespeople to talk less and listen more, something greens already do quite naturally. Helena was a seller I coached a few years ago. She was a green and very gentle in her ways. Most people didn't understand how she survived in that daunting industry, but I have a theory. She once told me about a time when she met a tough chief executive everyone had tremendous respect for. No one in the entire company had managed to sell anything to him, but after little coaching from me, Helena was determined to have a go, so she arranged a meeting. They ran into each other in the parking lot at the restaurant where they went to meet for lunch. The stern executive cruised into the lot in a vintage car from the late 60s, beautiful, shiny, and obviously very special. Helena said the only thing she could think of. Wow, do you like cars? As she said, wow, do you like cars? Asked the executive before they had even greeted each other. Helena nodded. Then he told her about the car, how much he had spent to restore it, the paintwork and alloys, the engine. He showered her. He showed her what it looked like under the hood. Elena nodded and murmured approval and hoped he wouldn't ask her any questions, since she couldn't tell the difference between a Ford and Chevrolet. But she didn't interrupt, she just listened. After that, it was easy. They sat down and he asked to see the sales agreement. How did she do it? By doing nothing at all except for one thing, listening. He signed before the food was even served. Conclusions on green behavior. Okay, do you have any greens in your family? Highly likely. Mr. Rogers, Gandhi, Michelle Obama, and Jimmy Carter are some well-known people with elements of green. And yes, Jesus, there's a guy who knew how to help others. My mom's green. Ooh, we're going to blue behavior. Yay! I've been excited for this one. In pursuit of perfection. Wait, there's a title underneath each title? Green's thing is what was Green's? How why change is so difficult and how to get around it. Yellow is how to recognize somebody whose head is in the clouds and get him back to reality. And red is how to recognize a real alpha and how to avoid getting in his way. Interesting. In pursuit of perfection. Why are we doing this? What's the science behind it? The last of the four colors is an interesting fellow. You've probably met him. He doesn't make a fuss about himself. but he does keep tabs on what is happening around him. While a green will just go with the flow, a blue has all the right answers. In the background, he analyzes, classifies, evaluates, assesses. You know you've met a blue if you visit someone's home and everything is organized in a particular way. Clear labels and names on each hook so that the children will know exactly where to hang up their jackets. Dinner menus divided into 6-week intervals to ensure a balanced diet. Stuck on the refrigerator door. If you look at his tools, you find that everything has its own spot and nothing is out of place. Why? A blue DIY guy always puts things back where they belong. He is also a pessimist. Sorry, a realist. He sees errors and he sees risks. He is the melancholic who closes the circle of behavior. What does that even mean? Closes the circle of behavior. Reserved, analytical, and detail-oriented. Here are some words you might associate with a blue. Reserved, analytical, and detail-oriented. I feel like I'm a blue when I'm sober. Next subtitle. Excuse me, but that's not quite accurate. We all have a friend like that. Think about it. You're sitting in a restaurant with your friends, you're discussing cats, football, or space rockets. Someone throws out a random comment. It may be your red friend who claims that the Patriots have been on the Super Bowl 11 times. It can be the yellow who cheerfully claims that as a child he lived in the same block as Will Smith in West Philly. Your blue buddy clears his throat and in a gentle voice says that the Patriots have actually only been to the Super Bowl 10 times, with their first appearance after the 1985 season and 8 times since 2001, and that Will Smith actually grew up in Winfield, which is well north of the block in question and a half-hour walk from the lovely Centennial Arboretum. In addition, without blinking an eye, the good friend adds, it's interesting to note that in the Super Bowl pregame coin toss of the past 51 games, the outcome has been tails 27 times and heads 24 times, and based on past statistics, the winner of the coin toss is slightly less likely to win the game overall. You just have to give up, boys. This guy simply knows everything. He doesn't make a big deal about it, but his way of presenting facts makes it difficult for you to call them into question. He knows where he found the info and can go fetch the book to prove it. That's the way it is with blues. They know how things stand before they open their mouth. They've Googled, read the owner's manual, and checked the dictionary, and afterwards they present a report in full. But an important thing to note, if the question doesn't come up, it's unlikely that your blue buddy will say anything on the subject. Oh, interesting. So they don't just spit random facts at you, it's just if it gets brought up. He has no need to tell everyone about what he knows. Nice. They're not braggy. Of course, a blue doesn't know everything. No one can. But you can usually bank on the fact that what he says is correct. Blue people often see themselves as accurate, cautious, correct, detail-oriented, logical, methodical, orderly, quality-oriented, reflective, systematic, thorough, and unassuming. Wow, that's good. Did you notice anything about the art above? Of course you did. This time I listed the different characteristics in an alphabetical order. I did not even notice that. Something a blue would certainly appreciate. However, I might get in trouble because I don't discuss each and every one of these characteristics individually on the subsequent pages. To all blue individuals who are reading this, who have probably jotted down a little note in the margin to go to my website to look for possible explanations for this blunder, I just want to say I didn't mean to cause any strife. It's crazy because even though I didn't notice that it was in alphabetical order, I did notice that for green, they didn't discuss every single thing on here, and I was upset about that. So, interesting. Next subtext. It's not a big deal. I was just doing my job. How can a know-it-all be unassuming? It's impressively modest to avoid making a fuss, even if you know everything. It's rare that a wholly blue person would feel the need to stand on the rooftops, or to toot his own horn in order to make it clear to the world who the real expert is. It's usually sufficient that you, the blue, are clear about who knows best. That's nice, that's confidence. There are downsides to this modesty. More than once I've stood in the middle of a crowd of people as we all tried to puzzle through a problem together. On one such occasion, a blue came forward after 2 hours and casually pointed out the answer. For him, it was never really a problem at all. He knew a thing or two, but because blues often miss the big picture, they don't always act immediately. I asked him why he didn't say anything 2 hours earlier, and like a typical blue, he said, "Well, you never asked." I'm weak. That's hilarious. Oh, it would be easy to feel aggravated by such a comment, but at the same time, I understood him. It's more my problem than his that he wasn't invited to join the discussion. Interesting. He knew that he knew the answer, and that was good enough. There's also no need to cheer, applaud, or call a blue up to the podium when he's done something tremendous in an amazing way. Sure, it doesn't really do any harm to cheer. He'll just nod, accept the praise and the price check, and then return to his desk, where he'll continue working on the next project, but he may well wonder what the fuss was really about. He was only doing his job. That's interesting. It's interesting they say that because when I was working sales in Puerto Rico, my last day job I did, every time I did a sale, everybody would cheer and it would make me uncomfortable. And I would even tell them, like, hey, you don't have to congratulate me. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. In fact, I should be doing more. And they were like, we were congratulating you. I'm like, okay. They were, but like they were trying to like take it back. But that's funny. But I want to retouch on the paragraph above where it says it would feel easy. It would be easy to feel aggravated by such a comment. But at the same time, I understood him. It's more my problem than his that he wasn't invited to join the discussion. It's funny because the other day, I went into the sauna and there was two girls having a conversation. And I went in and they were talking about stuff that I wanted to talk about. But because I wasn't asked, I didn't talk about. And it wasn't until they talked to me that I said something. You know? That was nice. Excuse me, but where did you read that? And what edition was it? That's the next subtext. A blue can rarely get too many facts or have too many pages of fine print. A blue can rarely get too many facts or have too many pages of fine print. People say that God is in the details, and I can imagine that it was a blue who first said that. That no detail is too small to be noticed. Cutting corners is simply not an option for a blue. Hold up, you might say. Not keeping track of every single tiny detail isn't really the same thing as cutting corners. But if you ask a blue, it is. Lol. Not having full control is the same thing as not having any control at all. What do we get by cutting corners? How can you possibly justify it? Damn, that's me. That's me as fuck. Wow. Wow. Not having full control is the same thing as not having any control at all. Wow, that's how I feel. It doesn't work like that. Tell a blue that he can ignore the details of the new contract and skip the last 30 paragraphs. There's nothing important in that bit, and he'll stare at you very attentively and wonder about your mental capabilities. As usual, he won't necessarily say anything. He'll just completely ignore what you said. He would rather burn the midnight oil, checking all the facts of the case, than miss the slightest detail. I need to make, 1 second. I need to make my blanket warmer. This is a heated blanket. I love it so much. I got it from TikTok. A few years ago, I tried to sell a leadership program to the CEO of a company in the packaging industry. He was a blue. There was no doubt in that. His emails were long-winded and a little dry. And for our first meeting, he had set aside 50 minutes, not an hour, not 3/4 of an hour, but 50 minutes. There was a reason for this. After the meeting, he would have lunch, and the dining room was 8 minutes away, plus a visit to the gents for about 2 minutes. A 50-minute meeting would get him there right in time. The first time we met, he deposited me in a specific chair by a specific corner at the visitor's desk. He didn't ask if I had any difficulty getting there, which I did. The address was totally impossible. He offered neither coffee nor tea. He didn't smile when he greeted me. He examined my business card very carefully. After going through the company's needs, I explained that I would go back to my office to put a quote together. Once back at my desk, I brooded about how I should go about it. Normally, my proposals were 10 to 12 pages long, but I knew that wouldn't be sufficient in this case. Instead, I put my nose in the grindstone and wrote over 35 pages. I mailed a hard copy of the quote to him, since for a blue, the written and printed word means much more than the spoken or digital. After a week or so, oh my god, that's so true. That's why I'm reading hard books and I cannot read from like a Kindle. I cannot. Wow. After a week or so, I followed the whole thing up with a phone call. There were interesting ideas, the CEO said, but he was ready to go further. Could he now get the full quote? What he actually said was, "Is there any more material?" I remember scratching my head. In my opinion, I had described the program rather well in the proposal. Each stage had an agenda, a clear goal, and a defined purpose. I'd given some background information, references, and citations. As a seller, you can't give up, so I was back at it, adding every detail I could think of. The second time, I put together at least 85 pages. Oh my god. Each item broken down into 2-hour intervals. Even more background, sample exercises, analysis tools, templates, the works. Details on that level that would have made a yellow throw up. Yes, because I'm also yellow. Pleased with myself, I sent over the whole caboodle. It took several weeks before I heard from the CEO. I asked if he was ready to make a decision, and he asked, "Is there more material?" Well, this time he wanted to come to my office. For 90 minutes, we sat on the same side of the table in the conference room at my office and went through the table of contents in the proposal. He had drawn up the general terms and conditions, read the fine print on legal paper, and he read the fine print on legal paper, and each section was full of questions and notes. Afterwards, he said with a total expressionless face that it was the best meeting he had been at for a long time. But what he really wondered was, "Is there any more material?" I sent him off and sat down for a while and pondered. More material? No problem. I shared the whole training folder. This was before e-learning and virtual classrooms. At least 300 pages covering every 15-minute session during the 15 days of training in 5 different stages of leadership. This was all the material there was, even with information about when coffee breaks should be slotted in, exactly what questions should be asked of the individuals during the training, how the room should be furnished, the works. I can certify there were no gaps. I thought that if I took all this and rammed it down his throat, he would be satisfied at last. After a month, he asked if there was any more material. There was not. A common misconception is that blues are unable to make decisions, but that's not the case. It wasn't that the CEO was pushing the decision, into sometime in the future, or that he couldn't decide. He simply had no need to decide. For him, the process leading up to the decision was significantly more interesting, and he just wondered if there was any more material. That's hilarious. Why some people have some sleep Why some people have to sleep on things for so long, you wonder if they've gone into hibernation. The preceding example also illustrates another important characteristic blue behavior. They're generally very cautious. They often think safety first. Where a red or yellow would take a wild chance, a blue will hold off and consider everything one more time. There may be more factors to take into account, right? You need to get to the bottom of things before you act. This can manifest itself in various ways. It's a fact that for the blue, the trip is more important than the destination. Literally. That's why I've been so stressed about this cruise trip, because for me, planning it on time and having everything organized and visually done to me is more important than even the trip itself. I mean, when I get to the trip, I get to enjoy, I get to step into my yellow, maybe even green personality. But leading to the trip, I'm blue. And it's so frustrating. Exactly the opposite of a red. Obviously, this amount of caution can result in no decisions being made at all. And it also means that blues rarely take any major risk. Never taking any risk ensures a predictable life. We can probably agree on that. I'm not saying anything about how exciting and inspiring it would be. I'm just stating the facts. Sometimes a blue can even completely refrain from starting something because he can't assess the risks. Oh my god. I once met a blue seller. I'm like that though. Oh my god. I once met a blue seller who had trained as an engineer. His motto was that the best deal is often the one that you didn't make. What? His motto was that the best deal is often the one that you didn't make. Oh, interesting. Interesting, I get it. Risk assessment is a complex thing, and who knows what dangers are lurking out there. A blue generally solves everything by creating advanced systems that manage the possible risks that may arise. They set the 3 alarm clocks, they leave 2 hours early when would be enough, they check and recheck the children's backpacks before school in the morning, even though they packed them the night before and no one has touched the backpacks during the night. They triple check that the keys are in their pocket, and of course they are. Where else? Sorry guys, where else would they be? The benefits of this are evident. Blues won't be taken aback by unexpected events in the same way others would be, and in the long run, they save a lot of time. It doesn't matter if it's easier, it's still not right. Things can't be allowed to go wrong. That's all there is to it. Quality is all that matters. When a blue individual thinks his work runs the risk of being shoddy or low quality, things come to a standstill. Everything must be checked out. Why was the quality decline? Why has the quality declined? Running the risk of generalizing, I would say that a fair number of engineers have distinct blue traits. Accurate, accurate, systematic, fact-oriented, and quality-conscious. I can't know for certain, but I would imagine that Toyota, the Japanese car manufacturer, probably has a good proportion of blue engineers among its employees. They have a policy that you must always ask why 5 times to ensure quality and get to the heart of the issue. I would say that this is a typical blue approach. in addition to the Japanese mentality, which is very long term and rather blue in expression. Oh my. I want to finish this before I fall asleep because I'm nearly yawning and closing my eyes. So, let's say someone discovers an oil stain on the floor. A right approach might be to lambaste the person closest to him and then order him to mop up the stain. A yellow sees the stain and then forgets it, but 2 days later is surprised when he sleeps on it. The green also sees the stain and feels a little bit of guilt because it was his problem and everybody's ignoring it. A blue would ask, why is there an oil spill? The answer might be that a gasket is leaking. This answer, of course, is unsatisfactory for a blue. Why is the gasket leaking? Because it's poor quality. Why do we have poor quality gaskets in our factory? Because we, the purchasing department was told to save money. We buy cheap gaskets instead of tight seal gaskets. But who asked us to save money and compromise on quality? This is the way he goes on. Maybe the problem will resolve itself. Maybe we'll get a report on what went wrong, but nothing is done to fix the problem. In the end, the blue solution might be to review our purchasing strategies instead of just mopping up the oil on the floor. My point is this: a blue is prepared to dive deep to get everything exactly 100% correct. Blues argue that if they're going to do something, they must do it correctly, and vice versa. If a task isn't worth being done properly, then it's not worth doing at all. Furthermore, because blues usually find it difficult to lie, they will always point out the defects they uncover, even defects that may reflect poorly on them. I clearly remember discussions my parents had when I was a child. We moved from time to time, and usually our house had to be sold, with everything that entailed. Dad, the engineer, would of course do all the work himself, and he managed the viewings personally. My mom was always upset that he began each viewing by pointing out all the flaws and shortcomings of the house. It leaked here and there, and some paint had flaked off behind the sofa. Why are you telling them that? My mother wondered. Because this and that is wrong, Dad replied. Sure, but do you have to tell that to the prospective buyers? Now they may never want to buy the house. He didn't understand the problem. As a very honorable and honest person, he couldn't hide the faults that he knew were there. He could live with the fact that we rarely made a huge profit on those deals. He'd been honest about the house because that's how it should be done. Oh, that's cute. That's how I am. That's why I couldn't do the sales that I was doing because it felt wrong. Logical, if the trail doesn't match the map, there's something wrong with the trail. Logical and rational thinking is critical to a blue. Out with all the feelings as much as possible, and in with logic. Of course, blues can't turn off their feelings completely. No one can, but they like to say they use rational arguments when making decisions. They value logical thinking highly, but they can very easily become depressed when things don't go their way, and depression has nothing to do with logic and everything to do with feelings. Guys, I'm gonna stop reading for now, even though I literally stopped right here on page 57, not even fully, because I'm falling asleep and I haven't slept early in ages. So I'm gonna go brush my teeth and go to sleep early. Well, early than most days. It's 1 a.m. right now. Every other day I've been doing 5 a.m. or 3 a.m. So it's getting better. Peace, God and goddesses. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you like this.